me is that everybody has some kind of trauma that they need to deal with. And you show me, a dysfunctional child, and somewhere in their lives there's some dysfunction. And so everybody could use time with a therapist and the good Lord. And so I never forgot that, right? And so even us, as we move through our day to day, I think that it's just important that, if we really need it, that we find somebody to talk to, whether it's a therapist, a psychiatrist, somebody, where we can, unleash our pain, and where those people are unbiased, and, they're not judging you. And so whether it's a pastor or a therapist or somebody, that's just really important. And so, I thank you, Malik, for making yourself vulnerable enough to share as well.
Thank you for sharing. And being a principal, what's your approach right now? What system is in place for the school system as far as kids that need therapy for those situations in life?
Yeah. So good question. This is a aspect of school that is near and dear to my heart. So I won't take up too much time because I don't know who else has to speak. But the first thing that we did was we got a grant for a social and emotional learning room in the school. So at Chancellor Avenue School, right now on the lower level, when you walk into a room, it is bright, it's colorful. There's a rocking chair, there is clay, there's a fish tank with real live fish for children to calm themselves. We have Lego Build to Express where kids can build things with the Legos and talk to you about it. And it's a universal room. So any teacher can take a student down. The child study team can take children down. Our school-based social workers can take students down. We also do like $3 haircuts to support parents, and that happens in the social and emotional learning room. So every social and emotional aspect happens in that room, and that took grant money to make sure that happened. That's not in every school. The other thing that we do is we move with multi-tiered systems of support. So a lot of things is about how are you proactive before you have to become reactive, right? And so when I notice a child that I think might be in pain or whatever, you'd be surprised what children tell me. Miss Pitts, I had I didn't want to come to the school and disrespect the school, but something jumped off, something, this and that. No, I need to hear you, right? So I'm calling security to bring you to my office in the morning. We're going to have breakfast together. Let's kick it. A lot of kids need a voice. They need and so it's not just me. I might not be the person. Maybe you gravitate to XYZ or the security guard or whoever, but we meet consistently every Wednesday from 9 to 10:30 at my building. And if Barack Obama came through the door on a Wednesday, guess what? He's coming to that meeting, Malik, because that meeting is important. And that is where we identify those students who are in need, whether they lost somebody, whether they're grieving, whether they're going through something, domestic in their house. But we have a student support system, and those children are broken into tiers. Some are their challenge is not as big. Some is a little more or whatever. And so there's three tiers. But some of the things that we do too is we ensure that we have STEM programs and tap dancing and all of these outlets so that children, so proactively we have children involved. As if I can keep children in the school for as long in the day as I can, then that's less time that they're out in the street doing things. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. It's a lot of moving parts, and I could go into so many different things. The other thing is restorative practices. Like, no, children are not just being suspended in my building for no reason. You might have to do a reflection. It doesn't mean that every infraction happens without a consequence, right? But we're not suspending kids left and right. Like, no, we're not doing that. Sometimes children need a voice. They need somebody to just hear what happened, right? And so it's a major mindset shift, because sometimes teachers will be like, well, they just came back to school and nothing happened. No, something did happen. We had a conversation. It squashed. There was no fight at the flagpole when it would have been after school. So all of these things are just really, really important. And so I really understand. And this is an aspect of my work that is very, very important to me, so those are just some of the things, to answer your question, Malik, that happens in my building, to make sure that we keep a pulse on what children are going through, as it relates to trauma and how we support them, because support should really feel like support.
Thank you, Miss Fitz.
You got it, Miss Lee.
We have Keisha Yuri on the phone. Keisha, you can introduce yourself. I'll let you do the honors.
Hi, Elaine. I wasn't going to talk or anything. I was just
Yes,
supporting
you
the
were. Yes, you
program.
were.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I want you to speak, please.
Okay, so I'm in the chat just giving some commentary and giving some thoughts and ideas. I'm a licensed clinical therapist and social worker, but just from a community-based place and from a community-based perspective, I'm, just listening and supporting. But therapy is everything. Trauma is complex. Trauma can be individual, it can be collective. And so we just need to, I think, learn how to identify it. And after we can identify it, then we can begin to do something about it and be more engaged in the process. I'm certainly excited about Chancellor Avenue School having a social emotional room. Many schools don't have that, and I'm glad they went after a grant to get that. But I think that the schools have to do, transformative things. I think in our workplaces, I think that we should have, these kinds of spaces in our workplaces, as well as at home, because we as people, we endure so much. Our environments are, a lot of times very stimulating in terms of crime, violence, and, different things that's going on. And so we become desensitized to it, and we start to normalize, oh, it's normal, oh, just another shooting, oh, somebody else got robbed, oh, somebody else got carjacked, oh, the kids are just fighting. And we can't, normalize those things, because the body takes a picture and the brain takes a picture, and the reaction to that, and a lot of people have increased anxiety, they're hypervigilant, they become depressed, stressed, overwhelmed, and the behavior, associated with trauma becomes pervasive, and we just normalize it, because we used to, seeing it and experiencing it. So I'm glad that you're having a conversation tonight. I work with people who've experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, and community violence. And many times it's vicarious. A lot of people didn't experience it directly, but they know people, or they saw it, or they, were in the area of it, or it landed on their doorsteps with a family member, but you still experience it. So trauma is complex, and it can be compounded if we don't deal with it. So we have one thing that happens, and then another thing that happens, and then another thing that happens, and we don't get to heal from any of it. So, healing is the key, in finding positive ways for us to cope, and finding positive support systems for us to be able to work through the journey of healing. And our men struggle tremendously with having healing and finding ways to cope, just because of the way they're socialized, because, many of them don't have support systems in place, because of masculinity, because of, all of those things to say. Men are not supposed to express feelings. They're not supposed to express hurt and fear and all of those things. And many of them don't know how to express feelings, because they're taught to just, keep it moving, be tough. And so I'm certainly happy that we're having this platform today, because our men need help, our men need support, our men need a place to go. I run the Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center, and we get a lot of men who come over and say, we wish we had a place to go too. We wish we had a men's center too. And so they want it, and we just, need to start to provide platforms and provide safe spaces for them to be able to get the help that they need.
And with that being said, Reverend Dunmore, because Reverend Dunmore is the pastor of a church, Reverend Dunmore, I don't want to put you on the spot, but because he's a pastor of the church and his mom died from COVID, how do you even hurting? Because we talk about that a lot. How do you even hurting? How do you end up helping other people? Or yeah, could you explain that?
For me, it's been so long. I get to have a loved one to die, but when mom died, it made me very sensitive to the needs of others. Having to be able to try to find a solace for myself, and counseling for myself, it made me very, very sensitive to the needs. I think it made me a better counselor, a better pastor, understanding my traumatic experience. That's Coco. That's Coco. And so it helped me, and I'm still going through the process. Still going through the process. And so this even helps me to hear your story, because it makes me more sensitive to understanding the stories, the feelings, and emotions of others.
Thank you. And then as we listening to, I just want to say this because we talk about this as being not normal for a lot of people and a lot of children. I want to say before my son was murdered in 2018, maybe 3 or 4 years, I don't know, maybe, but I was living on Martin Luther King. And in my complex, I used to work at Quitman, and it was staff development day. And I went home for lunch on Martin Luther King in college apartments, college face apartments. And as we was in the house, and I just think about his grace to God. I don't know how this happened, but we were in the house, and then my son went to leave out the door, and we heard all these shots. So we all went running to the window and to the door, and I'm like, oh my God, my son is shot. But it wasn't. It was another guy who used to be in the complex, and I don't know his first name, but his name was Hot Dog, right? That's what they called him. And the person stood over him and shot him up, right? Walked away, came back and shot him up some more. And to say how normal it was, everybody just went about their business. But I didn't know him. And I used to always pray that if any of my children were to be killed or shot, I used to say, I just hope that he's never by himself, right? I hope that somebody is there and they don't leave them. And just because, and that was like even before my son's death, I went to the guy, he was on the ground. I just instantly started praying. I didn't know him from a can of paint. I reached down on his legs, and everybody was just looking, and they was from far behind, or they were walking by, and I just started praying for him, right? And in my heart, I was saying, I'm gonna intercede for him, just in case he needs to repent or he can't call out. I was repenting for him. God, please forgive him for his sins. And as I looked around and the police was coming, I looked around and I just stood back and I watched people go about their business. People was at the door and they was just talking and looking. And I was like really blown away that this was so normal to them. And so we got to come away from that. That is normal, right? That our children see their loved ones get shot and they go to school and have to focus. My granddaughter, she was traumatized. She was saying they talking, she goes to Great Charter. She was going to Great Charter on Madison. And she was saying they talking about preparing for college. Well, we're not even in high school. And she was saying, she was talking to me and saying, how are we going to prepare for college or even high school? And every night I'm worried about my dad, right? Every night that I'm thinking about that my dad is no longer here. And so, Ms. Pitts, I'm saying that to you is though, because they go to school and they got so much more on their mind. When it comes to the test, they don't really have time to think about that. They think about so many other things. And so as a principal, that's just something to keep in mind. I'm about to put somebody on the spot. Officer Idell on the line. And, because I really want the men to speak, you don't lean back because I see you, because I want the men to speak. I want us women and other people on the line to see that men are hurting. So Idell, could you please talk? Idell Robinson, yes.
Yeah, I didn't hear your last words, Elaine.
I would like for you to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Idell Robinson. I'm the president of North Bronx Shills. First and foremost, it's an honor to be on here this evening just to hear some of the viewpoints of some people, because I get to see it from both perspectives. Perspective as someone who grew up in the city of Newark all his life, and then another person on the other side of the fence as a law enforcement officer. So I get to see it from both, from family members being dealing with trauma. But I think sometimes we don't identify the trauma until it's too late. And we don't realize what is trauma. So what is trauma to one person might not be the trauma to somebody else, but we still have to have those gauge points to see what are we doing? How can we fix this? How can we identify it? Because if we can't identify it, then that right there, we fall behind the 8 ball. Being in law enforcement, it can make you desensitized real quick, especially, working in a city such as Newark, because you're dealing with a high volume of people who are dealing with a list of things. So as an officer, you respond to the scene and you may not, saying, after dealing with it constantly and constantly, like you said, it desensitizes you. But we have to get away from that. We have to learn how to deal with people with empathy. And you can deal with people with empathy, but get your job done. And so those are some of the aspects that I believe in and trying to get across to younger officers that are coming on the job.
Thank you, Levi. Also, I think I see Marion Bay. Is Marion Bay? Yes. Miss Bay, could you please speak? Her name is Mariam. Okay.
Okay, now you know I wasn't going to say anything. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marion Bay, and I work with the reentry population here in the city of Newark. And one thing I wanted to say to Ms. Pitts, I really want to thank you for what you just said about the restorative practices at your school, because you reminded me of something. When I worked in the prison system, they and the brothers who are officers will know what I'm talking about. Write-ups were always viewed as a punishment. And when you said that there is no suspension, because you talk to the students, it kind of reminded me of that, because we don't address behavior. And when I worked inside, one of the key things for me was addressing the behavior. And I thank you for what you just said, because I think it's so key, because I think that there's a direct relationship between education and incarceration. And you are showing us how successful we could be if we do what you're doing and listen to the officer, Mr. Robinson, just speak about his experiences. I want to thank him for that as well, because we need more officers like Mr. Robinson working here in the city of Newark. So I just want to thank you. And I just want to say also congratulations again to you, Elaine, because when I had done my TV show on Monday, we got so many responses from people who are interested in trauma, because as you said, and as several people have said here, we all go through trauma, and we go through it in different ways. My trauma is not your trauma, and how we respond to it, I think, is important. But I also think that the key thing that we must have are experienced, trained counselors to address the issues that we have to address when we're going through trauma. And the last thing I want to say is that with brothers who are going through things, as I think you said it earlier, Elaine, sometimes they are ashamed or embarrassed to mention the fact that they're going through something. And the fear of someone finding that out to them is embarrassing. But I'm happy to see that stigma is now coming out, where we all know that if we keep it in, it explodes, and we cannot heal what we do not reveal. So thank you for having this. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you. I see. So,
Ms. Lee, can I just say one more thing really quickly in response to Ms. Miriam? Thank you for that, Ms. Miriam. I just think that one question stem that is very profound and that has helped me, but when I think about other facets, like even if I was a police officer, right, is help me understand. So even though I'm not a therapist, I don't proclaim to be, but I do, know how to deal with students who are handling trauma. But I even think that even when officers sometimes approach a scene and, they may feel like it might be not be enough time for that, but it disarms people from that accusatory space. So it's help me understand what happened here, or help me understand whatever it is that you're trying to understand, And so I just think that is a really good question stem that has helped me. But I think in so many facets, it would help situations, because it disarms people and it really lets them know that you're setting them up to give them a voice, right? Because when I say help me understand, it allows you to then express what really happened. And I'm not trying to make guesstimates or, so that was one thing that I wanted to share.
Okay. Well, I just want to say though, again, we're counselors in all areas. I mean, listening to the officer Robinson mention what he does. I mean, I think that's really key. We have more brothers like him talking to younger brothers about what they're going through, because really it only takes a good word to get them to react. Because when I worked inside the prisons, one of the things I would say to the brothers is like, why did you do what you did? And then many times they would tell me what some of the officers said to them that helped them to understand what they were going through.
So I think what we're talking about right here, if anybody's not familiar with the New Jersey Police Training Commission, they help develop the curriculum and things like that for police officers. Now, I'm not speaking on behalf of the police department at all. I'm just speaking as a man, a Black man growing up in the city of Newark all my life, and have mentored to young men, and in some ways mentored to older men. The PTC, like I said, they developed the curriculum. So if we're looking to reform and from my point of view, looking to reform police reform and things like that, trauma needs to be taught in the academy.
Yes. How
to deal with trauma, because not just as a cop, because as a cop you will get desensitized.
Right.
It's going to happen. If anybody can sit up here and tell you that they're not going to get desensitized, they will be lying to you. But just like she just said, you have to approach a situation or a scene. And of course, sometimes when it's a volatile type of incident, then your head has to be on a swivel. You can't, approach in a lax, type of environment or type of way. But you do have to approach, and like you just said, what is it that I need to know? So one, I can de-escalate this situation, so I can learn all the facts, and I won't approach it in a nonchalant attitude. These types of things should be brought to the academy, taught in the academy, not just as a 2-block period of instruction, but in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because it's just like you take a person who's a substance abuser. They go to an outpatient facility and they deal with it, and they're good. You've dealt with them, you've worked with them, but when they leave back out, they need to have the tools in order to be able to survive until they see you again. So those are some of the things that I think that will be very beneficial as far as in law enforcement aspect of it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I live here in the city of Newark as well, and I see these brothers who are going through trauma every day. So I don't want to be redundant, but I just appreciate you, Officer Robinson, and Principal Pitts.
Thank you
for what you're doing.
Thank you. Because I'm talking to the men, for the ones that just jumped on, I'm talking to the men and we talking about trauma. If you experienced any, or if it's some coping mechanisms that you may have, that you may want other people to talk to, I'm about to call you out. I have my coworker on the line, Sabor. It's Galaxy S10E. Would you like to speak on anything, Sabor? Thank you. Do you see him? I see one as Galaxy S10E. Sabor, raise your hand.
Hey, how you doing? I'm listening and I'm listening.
So that means you don't want to say anything. All right, I'm not going to pressure you. I see a Michael Morrison on the phone. Would you like to speak, Michael? Could you unmute Michael Morrison to see if he would like to say anything?
He wants me to see you.
Michael?
Hello?
Hi, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I will say a couple of words. Again, thank you for our sister Kareem invited me on today, and just give a little background. I'm a retired sergeant of Maple Police. I'm an owner of a karate school in Newark on South Orange Avenue. it just give my personal experience. Trauma is so complex. I'm listening to the principal talking, listen to the brother talking. It's not always something so traumatic that our young men are dealing with. You know, some of them are dealing with the divorce situation, of doing the domestic violence and the poverty that they experience, like myself experienced growing up in North Core and having that experience. So trauma has so many different levels, and the way we deal with it, I think we should. I hear other officers talking about being desensitized. I think what happens is, as an officer, we get desensitized, but we can never lose the humanity of people. Once you shared about the shooting in your neighborhood, and how do we get our people to honor the humanity of each other? I don't have the answer to that, but as an officer, when I go to different incidents, the humanity of the person I felt for, because I knew it was somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's husband, somebody's wife. So that's just a question I put out there, that how do we get our community to honor the humanity of each other?
Absolutely, that's great. And so what I usually don't do, and I regret, because I really try to give everybody a chance on the line. If it's people on the phone that would like to talk, you can. Deacon, how did that go? Do you just unmute them, or because I know with the other line you'll hit the number and ask them would they like to say something?
It's however you want to do it. If you want me to go through every line and see if they want to say something, I'm not sure how many lines we have on there. But if you want to go
It's not
and
that many, so go ahead. Do it.
all right, so I'll go ahead and start, and we can just go from there. Give me 1 second. All right, so I have the last 4 digits are 8870.
That's gonna be the last 4 digits of your phone number.
Right.
Okay.
I only have one number?
So what is, I see a 929-205 number up here. I don't know who that is.
6055. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. I don't have nobody saying anything.
Okay, it's okay. So maybe they don't. We just want to just give them that chance, because I usually do when people say that they wanted to talk and we miss it, so I don't want to miss anyone. I see a phone number ending with 8870.
Yeah, that's the first one I did.
Okay, what you showing me? Okay, Karima, we have Karima on the line. Karima, would you like to say something? I don't see you. I see you commenting, so I don't know where you are. Karima.
She's on the comment.
She's commenting. Okay, Karima K.
Karima K. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to listen. Don't be laughing.
Thank you for listening, Karima.
You're welcome.
All right, so I mean, I believe the mayor didn't text back. I was texting Salima as well, and so I know that pastor said that he had to leave and go. Reverend Dunmore, are you still on?
No, he stepped off.
Okay, because I know he said he wanted to go with the families. So it's the ones that I didn't call out. Are there any questions? Joaquin Way, would you like to say something? His name said Joaquin Way with a lion.
With a lion. Okay.
Okay, I see Yolanda. You want to say something, Yolanda?
No, I'm just listening to this. My first time on.
So LGK20 plus. I really can't see that person. Do you want to say anything? Yes, I see you moving up to the. I can't see.
What's the name?
It's a LG K220 Plus. Okay, so
They should be able to unmute themselves also.
okay, all right. So I want to close out. I would like to thank everybody for joining. I will speak to the mayor so we can make this up. In closing, I want y'all to know this. When I was 20, I celebrated my brother's death. He was murdered 21 years ago in Newark. And yesterday we celebrated his death. And so in closing, I want to say that, you know, we never know. So when my brother got murdered, and I'm gonna get a little real. When my brother got murdered, I wasn't speaking to him. We had an argument, right? And so closing, I want to just let y'all know how sometimes you gotta let go and forgive. He got murdered, and I wasn't speaking to him. I went to go to Virginia, and he wanted to speak to me. And he was saying something to me, and I was like, "Well, I'm not speaking to you." And then later that night, I got a phone call that he got shot, right? So I was like, okay. So I called to my sister, and she said he died. And so I went through a lot with that, right? It was a lot of, oh my God, I didn't get to say sorry. And so, you know, with everything that's going on in the world with the corona and just everything that we're going through, I want y'all to maybe just try to forgive, right? If you got things going on in your life, forgive. Tomorrow is not promised. You know, even with the COVID, it's right in our face. Our loved ones go to the hospital, they by themselves, we don't get to see them again. And so ending this, I just want you to know that life is real short. We can't hold on to things, and we got to learn to let go and let God. This is never about religion. If you have a God, I've been listening to a motivational speaker, and I meant to do this in the beginning. She said, always tag God in whatever you do. So I wanted to tag God in this. I thank everyone for coming out. Wait, is somebody waving? Plus, you want to speak now? Okay, LGK20 Plus is waving. He would like to say something?
Hey, how you doing?
Right.
All right. I was just trying to figure out what this was, a program about trauma.
Yes. What's your name?
My name is Deacon Humphrey Gordon.
Hi, Deacon Humphrey Gordon. Yes, this is about trauma. It's really about us coming together as a community, as a village, to help each other cope with it. Because we learned that talking helps someone heal, right? And so maybe it's something that we can say that'll help somebody else get to where they need to get to. And so that's what this is about.
Oh, okay. I like it so far.
Okay. Would you like to say something?
I just did. That's I liked it.
Well, we're going to end. So everyone, have a good night. Thank you for coming out.
Have a good one, Elaine.
All right.
I'm gonna call you.
Yeah.